Not everyone likes spiders. In fact, few people do. What follows might not engender much in the way of affection, but could inspire respect for a very ancient group of animals, like this water spider that lives in a diving bell. And this long, thin female who actually makes a net to catch her prey. Spiders are some of the most versatile creatures on Earth. There are some who build traps with hinged lids to outwit the unwary. This spider with the boxing gloves is going courting. Love among the spiders is a risky business. In the words of the old rhyme, "Would you come into my parlour?" said the spider to the fly. There are people who have spent their lives among spiders. One such person is John Cooke, who with his colleagues at Oxford shot much of this film. He was once curator of spiders at the American Museum of Natural History, New York.
Spiders are one of these incredibly neglected groups. I mean, they're so abundant. I mean, take a field like this. An acre of grassland would have anything up to 2.25 million spiders. That means that when you take a square foot of grassland like this, statistically, you've got 50 spiders running about in here at the right time of year. And of course, when one considers the number of insects that these spiders eat, then you begin to realize how very important spiders are in the natural world.
John Cooke and his fellow scientists have calculated that if each spider ate only one insect a day for a year, the total weight of their victims would exceed the weight of the entire population of Great Britain, over 3 million tons. To prove that there really are that many spiders around, look at one small area of woodland on an autumn morning when their webs have been picked out and highlighted by the dew and early sunlight. Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet eating of curds and whey. There came a great spider who sat down beside her and frightened Miss Muffet away. Most of our attitudes to spiders were conditioned in childhood by nursery rhymes and legends. It may come as a surprise to learn that Miss Muffet was a real person. Her father, Dr. Thomas Muffet, wrote one of the earliest books on spiders. He's said to have dosed poor Miss Muffet with crushed spiders when she had a cold. No wonder she was put off them for life. The Scots owe a great deal to this particular spider. Their national hero, Robert the Bruce, sat watching it weave its web while hiding in a cave from pursuing English troops. The spider's persistence in completing its web gave Bruce the determination to fight the English once more. Inspired by the finished web, he finally beat them at the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314. Spiders go much further back into folklore. The Greek maiden Arachne challenged the goddess Athene to a spinning match. For her presumption, the goddess turned Arachne into a spider and condemned her to spin forevermore. Arachne's consolation must be that the whole family of spiders are known as arachnids. Most of us probably recognize just two basic spiders. First, the owner of that messy-looking parlour to which flies have an open invitation. It's Tegenaria, the house spider. It's very common and quite harmless. Second, any spider that weaves an orb web like this one, whose work of hours has been condensed here into a few seconds. But spiders are far more versatile than that, especially when it comes to building webs. This fantastic piece of engineering is a triangular web supported at 3 points. It belongs to a rare British species called Hyptiotes, sometimes known as the triangle spider. It uses its body as part of the web, actually bridging one supporting thread and forming a living link in the silk. This way it detects when an insect hits the web. When this happens, it partially collapses the web, the better to entangle its prey. All this time, it's still forming a link in the thread by paying out silk behind it. Having killed its prey, it now wraps the victim in a shroud of silk. Finally, it cuts its meal loose, puts fresh tension on the web, and climbs back up the anchor rope, still forming the connecting link while it completes the wrapping process. Webs come in all shapes and sizes. This one belongs to Zygiella, the same spider that inspired Robert the Bruce. It's an orb web with a missing segment neatly bisected by a line running to Zygiella's parlour. She sits there like an angler waiting for a bite, one foot feeling the line to detect a tug. This time the victim is a mosquito. Like all spiders, Zygiella kills by biting and injecting venom. That's one more insect to add to those tons that spiders eat each year. Here's another version of the fishing line technique. Segestria lives in old brickwork. The web consists of a series of fine lines laid over the surface. Segestria sits in the middle, feet in contact with the lines. A bee wanders into the trap. It advances until it eventually touches a line. The line gives a telltale pull at the outside of Segestria's lair. The spider waits a second or two, perhaps to be quite certain the catch is really hooked. Very often the spider darts out to land its prey immediately. The bee tries to sting the spider, but the sting gets caught in the web and is pulled bodily out. The poison sac continues pumping. Now Segestria has only to immobilize the bee and eat it. One tip that John Cooke passes on to bees and others who have reason to be interested in the whereabouts of Segestria: look for the debris on the ground beneath. Even spiders find parts of their meals indigestible. Segestria catches crawling insects, but other webs are designed to stop insects in flight. Here's one. And there's the victim. A green fly is caught on the scaffolding supporting a web belonging to a spider called Linifia. Linifia shakes its trap, it's called a hammock web, to dislodge the green fly onto the main catching surface. Then it drags it through. Linifia is the friend of rose growers wherever it is found.
Wildlife Mysteries will continue in a moment here on A&E. We now return to Come Into My Parlour.
There are at least 30,000 species of spider in the world, and new species are being discovered all the time. Spiders are amazingly adaptable. Here's a trap built by Theridion, an uncommon British spider. These threads anchored to the ground are under tension. Not only that, they're coated with globules of glue. Theridion is unusual because it eats ants, which most other spiders reject. A small ant would have been jerked off the ground by the tension in the web, but this happens to be one of the larger species. Just the same, it's well and truly caught. Theridion climbs down the scaffolding to discover that it has caught something large and dangerous. The ant fights back by squirting formic acid at the spider. Theridion temporarily retreats until the ant is out of ammunition. Then it will return and bite it to death. Theridion is unusual among spiders for something other than eating ants. Spiders as a whole aren't all that interested in their offspring. But Theridion has a nursery full of young, living in her parlour, with whom she's willing to share her meals. First, she prizes the dead ant from its death grip on the ground. After the ant has been hauled up, she'll allow the babies to come down and feed. All of this miniature drama is taking place in an insignificant clump of heather, one of hundreds on the quiet hillside. This bizarre creation of apparently haphazard threads is the web of an African spider called Stegodipus. The web may be a couple of meters long, far too big for one spider. Stegodipus is one of the few spiders that lives and works communally. A daddy longlegs hits the net. The web isn't sticky, but the silk has been teased out in order to entangle. Like a scout, the first spider arrives on the scene. For the moment, one solitary spider battles to subdue its outsized prey. Soon, a whole team will arrive to tow away the defunct daddy longlegs so that it can be dismantled and then eaten whenever they wish. Stegodipus lives communally from choice. Other species find themselves playing unwilling hosts to spider lodgers who move into the parlour without being asked. This web is the work of Nephila, a large spider common in the southern states of America. Nephila built the web for her own use, and now she's caught a Polistes wasp that could sting her to death. Nephila is perfectly capable of dealing with such a situation. She bites the wasp before it can sting her, and then wraps it up in silk. So far, so good. There's the silk coming out of her spinnerets at the rear end of her body. The wasp is all wrapped up, but there's still a problem. The web contains uninvited guests. They're tiny spiders of another species who share Nephila's food. Scientists know such animals as commensals. Nephila could eat them at any time she liked. Instead, she tolerates them, so perhaps they serve some purpose in her life, although every now and then she kicks them out of the way. There may be over 1 million spiders to every acre of grassland, but when searching for one particular species that lives on open heathland, even an expert like John Cooke is tempted to doubt his own calculations. Cooke was hunting for a spider called Tomesus. This unsuspecting bee could be in serious danger, because Tomesus not only lives on heather, It looks like heather. It's a crab spider. Crab spiders are characterized by their 2 long front legs and excellent eyesight. It doesn't make a web or any other kind of trap. It doesn't need to. Perfectly camouflaged, it can rely entirely on stealth. Heather is a particularly good place to lie in ambush because so many insects visit its bell-like flowers for pollen and nectar. Here comes a prospective victim now. With incredible patience, Tomesis lets the fly walk over it. It walks so far that Tomesis can't grasp it. Then the fly makes the fatal mistake of walking back. The fly is quickly subdued by poison from the spider's fangs. Tomesis can be a little unnerving in close-up. It has 8 eyes with which to watch its prey. The next victim is a wasp, an unpopular creature. Although John Cooke points out that wasps are of some benefit to farmers, they kill harmful caterpillars as well as stinging people. This wasp is about to meet its match. The wasp doesn't seem to notice that this particular blossom has legs. The encirclement is so slow it's almost an embrace, but it leads to a kiss of death. Macabre, fascinating, ingenious. All these adjectives describe the many ways in which spiders ensnare their victims, but that is only one aspect of their complex lives. Spiders can be remarkable lovers and parents as well.
Wildlife Mysteries will continue in a moment here on A&E. We now return to Come Into My Parlour.
Spiders are so adaptable that they've colonized almost every habitat on Earth. One species even lives 7,000 meters up on Mount Everest. It's not surprising that they also live on rooftops. It was on one famous Oxford roof that John Cooke found a spider that has a weird courtship dance.
You never know until you begin to look the strange places that spiders can be found in. Take this barren waste on the roof of the University Museum in Oxford. Freezing cold in winter, boiling hot in summer, and yet this is the home of a little jumping spider which I first discovered here at about the age of 14, that is found almost nowhere else at all. Up here in this extreme environment, it lives its whole life through. In fact, if you look closely, you'll probably be able to see here a male and female going through their courtship ritual.
Euophrys stalks its prey as stealthily as a cat and finally pounces on it. The male uses a somewhat similar approach in courtship, but his technique is far more polished than that. With his long front legs, he gives a series of enticement signals that include jerking them into a nearly vertical attitude. In this case, he's picked a loser. The female is already carrying eggs and refuses to be enticed. Even more remarkable is the courtship routine of the male wolf spider. That's him on the right, signaling a potential mate with enlarged palps like boxing gloves. If she accepts him, she'll vibrate her front legs and let him move in closer. Male spiders face a special danger in courtship. They may end up as a meal rather than as a mate. These elaborate signals have been evolved to make sure that the female understands his intentions. Signals in the wolf spider's case that are performed at the speed of an old flickering movie. The danger of starting out as a lover and finishing up as a leftover is considerably increased when your mate is 4 times as big as you are. These are 2 male Nephila. And there's the female. Perhaps all small men should follow the example set by Robert the Bruce and take heart from a spider's example. It's somewhat like a chihuahua propositioning a St. Bernard. When he does finally come courting, however, he gets away with it. Here he is, crawling with impunity over her abdomen. Male spiders mate by means of their palps, a pair of leg-like appendages. The whole process is more clearly visible in a species like Micromata, where male and female are more the same size. That's the male with the colourful body. He's previously deposited some sperm on a tiny web woven specially for the purpose. He then absorbed the sperm with his palps and went in search of a female. With Micromata, there are few courtship preliminaries. He simply approaches her and after tapping and stroking her, places 1 palp at a time in an opening beneath her body. The palp is virtually locked into place while contractions at the end complete the process. But no member of the spider fraternity has greater courtship problems than the tarantula. This male lives in the Arizona desert, and this is the home of the female he intends to mate with. With good luck and good management, he'll live to love another day. She is very fierce, so he taps on the outside of her burrow rather as a human lover might tap on a door. In this case, he doesn't want to be let in. He wants her to come out without attacking him. If he makes the correct vibrations, she'll get the message. She seems to be responding to his advances. Now for the actual lovemaking. His adult life is only 2 or 3 months long anyway, but the longer he lives, the more offspring he can leave. The male, as usual, he's the smaller of the pair, has spurs on his front legs with which to hold the female's deadly fangs open and out of harm's way. There are the fangs now, those 2 sharp and shiny brown curved teeth still poised menacingly above him. He forces her back all the time, never relaxing his guard for a second. At last he's able to place his palps in position. Still tapping away for dear life. Another moment of supreme danger will come when he finally breaks free. For a male tarantula, the saying, "love them and leave them," has a special meaning. It's a recipe for survival. The female returns to her burrow. Her mate goes off to look for another mate. He's only got 2 months to live, if he's lucky. The female has the next generation to worry about. The time it takes for spider unions to bear fruit varies enormously because the females can store the sperm in their bodies for long periods. When she's ready to lay eggs, the female, this species is called Pysora, weaves a special tray of silk. Now Pysora extrudes her eggs, fertilizing them at the same moment. The eggs congeal on their silken pad. Finally, Pysora covers her eggs with silk until they're wrapped tightly inside a cocoon. There are grounds for believing that silk production originally evolved for protecting eggs, since all spiders do this, and by no means all spiders use silk for catching and wrapping prey. Those techniques may have evolved later. When it's complete, Pysora carries the cocoon around beneath her body. Other species go further than that in terms of maternal devotion. This wolf spider, Alopicosa, not only carries the egg cocoon attached to her spinnerets, but when the babies hatch out, she transports 100 or more of them on her back for the first 9 or 10 days of their lives. After that, they molt their first skin and become independent. Molting is the only way a spider can grow bigger. It has to split its old skin to emerge one size larger. This is micromata, beginning to molt. For several days past, she'll have lost all interest in food, waiting motionless for her skin to start splitting. The split begins around the carapace, just above the legs. Then the entire carapace pivots upward like the lid of a box. Many insects and crustaceans, such as crabs and lobsters, use the same process. Some of the bigger spiders molt 10 times or more during their lives. Molting can be a time for running repairs as well as growing. This micromata has lost one of its legs. It's about to put that right in the molt. As it pulls its new body out, there's a brand new leg to replace the missing one. It's in the center, slightly slimmer and a lighter shade of green. The spider produces a lubricating fluid to make the whole process of emergence easier. The molt is complete. The old skin hangs above the new spider like a discarded glove. The spider will remain there, motionless and defenseless, relying on camouflage for protection until its new body hardens.
Wildlife Mysteries will continue in a moment here on A&E. We now return to Come Into My Parlour.
Argyroneta aquatica is a European spider that has perfected a unique way of life. No other spider in the world can live underwater. She exists in this unfriendly element by weaving a curved net of silk attached to water plants. This she fills with air. The silver sheath around her body is air brought down from the surface. A bubble of air is released inside the net and the little diving bell gradually fills up. When she wants more air, she swims or climbs to the surface and sticks her abdomen through the surface film. A quick flip traps air among her body hairs. She holds the bubble there by trailing her rear pair of legs close to the body. Part of the bubble is released immediately she enters the diving bell. She turns head downwards to unload the rest, leaving enough stuck to her body to supply her when swimming. The water spider does most of its hunting for aquatic insects, even for tadpoles underwater, but it's also sensitive to the vibrations set up by prey struggling on the surface, like this injured fly. She can't actually eat in the water, so she takes the fly back to the diving bell, pushing it inside to digest in her own good time. Once the bell is filled with air, the supply lasts a long time. Inside, the spider is safe from enemies such as water beetles, dragonfly larvae, frogs, and even fish. Like any true home, the diving bell is an all-purpose structure. It's a place to eat, to mate, and to raise a family. In the breeding season, the eggs occupy half the living space. This is one species in which the male is often bigger than the female, which makes him a bold suitor. His courtship is not a very subtle one. He seems to expect immediate success. The approach is confined to a few leggy caresses. If she doesn't want him, she'll lunge at him and he'll retreat. This time he seems to have been successful. The female appears to be luring him back into her underwater parlour, where mating sometimes takes place. More often he presses her up against the underside of the diving bell, and that's what happens this time. People find spiders variously beautiful, beastly, or just bothersome. But everyone is fascinated by the alleged deadliness of some species. Tarantulas, for instance. How deadly are they? Spider expert John Cooke explains.
Now, this is a large arboreal tarantula from Trinidad. It looks absolutely horrific. It's large and hairy and so on. But in fact, it's completely harmless. I would allow my children to play with this. It's very strange how spiders have instilled a tremendous feeling of fear, even from very early times. And in fact, the European myth of the tarantula goes back a very long way in history. It was believed that if you were bitten by the tarantula, you were overcome with a sense of deep melancholy, and the only cure for this was to have a whale of a party, and you consumed large amounts of alcohol and danced until you were exhausted. And then the following morning, you woke up with the effects of the venom totally dispersed and only a mild hangover.
Tarantula bites are rarely more than temporarily very painful. The real killer, with which the tarantula has been unjustly confused, is the black widow.
Yes, this is a black widow. Contrary to popular belief, they're not large furry spiders. They are in fact quite small, almost spherical, shiny black things, easily recognized because they have a red hourglass-shaped marking on the underside of the abdomen. And they are, of course, one of the few really poisonous spiders in the world.
Another very venomous spider is the brown recluse, found in warmer areas of America. Its bite can cause serious skin lesions, but is rarely fatal. To demonstrate that even the dreaded tarantula doesn't always have things its own way, John Cooke took his cameras to the Arizona desert. There he sought a very aggressive creature indeed, but not this one. He wasn't looking for rattlesnakes among the saguaro cacti. The creature he sought was this, a large wasp called pepsis, which leads an innocent life by day feeding on milkweed. At night, it justifies its other name, tarantula hawk. It walks the desert like John Cooke. They're both hunting for a burrow where a tarantula lives. Some tarantulas are too wary to be enticed out. Pepsis has no choice but to find another burrow. This time it has more luck. With the spider out on the desert surface, the battle is joined. The wasp has succeeded in stinging the spider, not to kill it, but merely to paralyze it. It doesn't intend to eat the tarantula. It has fought the battle for quite a different reason. Next, the tarantula hawk tidies up an old spider burrow it has marked down for a special purpose. This is where it will store its victim. The spider, imprisoned, helpless, in the parlour of its own kind. Pepsis is a large and powerful insect, but clearing the burrow is nothing compared with its next feat of physical exertion. First, a brief wash and brush up. It now returns to the scene of the battle. It stings the tarantula once or twice more to make sure it's fully unconscious, though nowhere near dead. Then it picks up the doped spider and drags it for a long way round the desert, perhaps to ensure that the poison circulates to all parts of its body. Sometimes it brings it back to the point at which the fight took place, and may even push the spider down its own burrow. The tarantula hawk, Pepsis, goes to such grisly lengths for a very good reason. Once it has hidden its victim inside the burrow, it lays a single egg on the spider's drugged body. When Pepsis' own grub hatches out in a few weeks' time, it will have a living but still paralyzed spider on which to feed and develop to become eventually another tarantula hawk.
Wildlife Mysteries will continue in a moment here on A&E. We now return to Come Into My Parlour.
John Cooke finds it impossible to single out one spider whose beauty and ingenuity excels all others. To him, all spiders are beautiful and ingenious. In the end, he reluctantly agreed to put forward one candidate. The star's name is Dinopis, and she comes from Trinidad. At first, she looks like any other long, thin, brown spider. But what she does, and how she does it, sets her apart from all the rest. She's making a framework of silk. On that framework, Dinopis is weaving a net, highly elastic but not sticky. The silk is deliberately fluffed out with special combs on her hind legs so that her prey will catch on it. The net is nearly complete. When she's satisfied with it, Dinopis cuts the net loose from the original framework. She descends and measures the exact distance to the ground with her front legs. Next, Dinopis stretches the net to test it. All that remains is to wait for a likely victim to walk underneath. Super slow motion shows how the net works. This is a catch made at real speed. She's poised ready. Each net is used only once. Dinopis eats the net and wrapping silk along with her prey and then simply recycles it. The silk is ready for use again within 2 hours, so she can make several nets every night. Dinopis is a nocturnal hunter. This time, Dinopis has caught a beetle bigger than even she can handle. The net breaks, and the beetle manages to get a grip on the ground. For once, the victim escapes. Dinopis stores the remains of her tattered net. She'll eat the silk later for recycling. She isn't finished yet. Dinopis has one other remarkable talent, a disappearing trick that makes one share John Cooke's sense of awe at the wonderful world of spiders.
Sunday, a man-made monster is out to murder a nosy nurse. This is one Beauty and the Beast story that'll send chills up your spine. Chimera. Now stay tuned for Brute Force, next on A&E.